because tickets have been a hot topic around City this week, be it the criteria or lack of it for the Real Madrid home game, the purchase and refunding of hundreds of tickets for the Brentford away game, and the prices of season tickets announced last Friday. I've been speaking to Nick from the Man City Fans Foodbank support group about the rise in prices to get his reaction.
Same as it was last year, disappointment. Although I will say added with a bit more anger than before, given the climate, given the cost of living crisis is continuing to roll on. We said this last year, that people are not doing well in this country. I think that's fair to say. It's not controversial to say. So it feels unnecessary and a bit cruel.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who will listen to this and say, well, it's the best football that City have ever been playing. Tickets are actually quite cheap for that. What do you say to those people?
I mean, obviously it's the best football ever. I mean, I can't believe what we're seeing on the pitch, certainly. And, we've got the best manager in the world. He's given me, I can't speak for everyone, but he's given me some of the best memories that I'll ever have to do with football. But at the end of the day, how does that translate to ticket prices? Should we do what Tottenham did and every time we play poorly, ask for a refund or get a refund from the club? It doesn't work like that. The club regularly praises our support, and we say how incredible City fans are because we've maintained this core support no matter how rubbish the team was or where we end up over the years. This core will be here no matter if Pep leaves tomorrow and we get relegated. The argument just continually, like it was last year, and it ends up being about whether it's worth it or not, and it just turns it into what we've always said that we hate, being treated like customers. There was so much uproar about the Super League announcement the other 3 years ago now, because once again our support was took for granted as we were customers, or were we called legacy fans?
Yeah.
Sorry, so we don't have to accept the argument on their terms.
Yeah, so I mean, no argument then that like you get what you pay for. If you think of it as a premium product that you're getting, you have to pay premium prices, don't you?
Well, I don't know if you do. I really don't know if you do. I mean, like I said, you can look at it. I think they've done this for the past couple of years now by saying, well, if you look at our competitors in the league, we are we offer a competitive rate, a competitive price. But look, you and I both know that we're not going to go and support Newcastle tomorrow if it turns out that they've got a 10 times cheaper season ticket and they relocated to Gorton or something. It's not going to happen. So it's
it's City or not, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's not. So it's a pointless argument for a supporter to use. That's an argument that only the business heads at the club can make. When once again being treated as customers, not as an intrinsic part of what makes Manchester City Football Club Manchester City Football Club. It is business, but it's a business like no other in the world because we know the value that we bring to as supporters. And I think it's fair to say supporters across the board as well, not just at City, across the country. Supporters are sick of the loyalty being weighed up, divvied up, calculated, to see how much money can be extracted from it, until we hit breaking point.
Yeah. There's also the argument that, the tickets have gone up, about 30, 35, 40 pounds per ticket around the ground. That works out about £2 to £3 a game. Isn't that an affordable rise? Is that not something people can absorb?
I mean, I hate this one, David. That's the most repeated one that you see on social media or things like that. Is £2 to £3 a game. Like it's less than a pint. It's 12 out of the last 14 seasons that we've seen these small increases. Where do you draw the line? I've seen a programme going around, I think it's from 2007-8, showing adult tickets where I sit now, they were £350. In the 15 years since, they've now more than doubled to 710 quid. And I'm in one of the cheapest parts of the ground. Have people's wages doubled in 15 years? No, they've not. Nobody's have, especially with where we are being, one of the more working class or deprived parts of the country. People are tightening the belts everywhere, and to be honest, I've already heard of a few people that I know say that this has tipped them over the edge and they're not able to justify renewing. And what also upsets me is that it tends to be other blues making that specific argument, saying that they're affordable. And honestly, I just want them to think about the fellow supporters for for who it isn't so affordable. Show a bit of empathy and togetherness, because you know, I mean, look, we also moan a lot about how good atmospheres, how not good atmospheres are at the Etihad these days. They're rarer than ever. And think about the hardcore support we've lost in that last decade because they couldn't afford it anymore, and how that's impacted it. I mean, there's a reason our away support is known as one of the best in the league, and that £30 away cap is a massive factor.
Yeah. The club has also said recently that operating costs have gone up. Is that not normal for businesses to just pass on the operating costs to the customers?
Well, again, yeah, customers, back to that. But, not all businesses do. It's 100% a choice to pass these costs on. You pass on those costs so you still maintain the same profit margin as before. And that might be fine if everything was going great for supporters off the field. But, we know it's not. We're paying more for food, energy, keeping the roof over their heads. So for our football club to hit us with yet another increased cost just to pass on a profit loss to us, like I said before, seems a bit cruel in this climate. And I can't stress enough just how much of a fanfare City made about, was it last year's revenue, this record revenue of 613 million it was, I think, with profits of £42 million. The ticket increases are a minuscule, tiny drop in the ocean compared to that. We don't need to impose ticket rise on supporters. We've passed that point in our history at this, but we've never needed it less. And according to the club's own figures, City have got. I did a bit of research here to make sure I was right. We have sponsorship agreements with 47 different brands this season, and the top 5 of those account for 75% of our total sponsorship income. The few £100,000 that are going to be gained from this increase could be covered with another sponsorship deal. Like, they're obviously not that particular about handing them out. There's nearly 50 of them, are they?
Would you say there's an argument, though, in that when it comes to things like financial fair play and UEFA's looking at City's books, and currently the Premier League charges looking at City's books, ticket revenue it's irrefutable, isn't it? It is there. It's either there or it's not. Whereas you look at sponsorship deals and they have to be compared against the market, and there's all the talk about whether they are true market value. Ultimately, ticket revenue, it is there. That is it. It's bang. You can't dispute that.
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, well, it wasn't too long ago in our history that was it Peter Swales messing about with the attendance numbers to you can say that about anything. I think with us, we're under so much scrutiny at the moment. We've got probably the best financial experts in the world. Isn't it Deloitte that deal with our finances? Look, I really do not think that we're under any. I don't think the club see it as that. I don't think the club see it as, our match day revenue is 100% the gold standard and it's fine, we can't be looked at. I think it is, once again, it is a minuscule proportion of our revenue. I even seen, and with, like I say, for such a massive club that brings in hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds in sponsorship, I hate to do the typical looking at German football, but I saw today that Fortuna Dusseldorf, I think they're in like the 2nd division or something in the Bundesliga, they've done a new sponsorship deal that will specifically allow fans to attend for an amount of free matches that season. I'm pretty sure Fortuna Dusseldorf need that money more than we do. It's it's not relevant. I do not think it's a few million quid in the scheme of a £600 million business.
Yeah. Just finally, Nick, because there'll be people listening to this as well that basically say that if people are struggling, if they can't afford their gas or electric or food bills, they probably shouldn't have a season ticket. Is that what do you make of that argument?
I mean, well, yeah, of course, but people do that. People do give up that. I seen somebody say earlier that football has always been the most important of the least important things in our lives, and we all know. I know from my experiences, I'm sure you have too, that we've given up something in our day-to-day lives to afford to go to the next round of a Carabao Cup game, or so we can do an away match with our mates, or another flipping Wembley trip. It's in the hope to win a trophy. Football is the last thing that we sacrifice before essentials. It's not. it's not unfair to say, again, not controversial to say, things have not been going well in this country for a while now. People's pay packets stretch less than ever. Match tickets are more unaffordable than ever in this climate. Energy costs, mortgages, rents. We've got we've got Victorian diseases coming back like rickets and malnutrition. We through our work at the Food Bank, we hear a lot about that. It's but funnily enough, average attendances in the Premier League are higher than ever. 40k attendances are averaging. It's because football is such a huge and measurable part of our lives. We want to go and see the team we've grown up with, fell in love with, hated at times. we go to, see the match day family that we've been going with for 30, 40 odd years, experiencing the good and bad of it as a collective. Being a City fan, look, it's a privilege. And I just generally believe that instead of just trying to keep ticket prices stable, I think we should be actively fighting to make them as affordable for as many Blues as possible to see us play. If I have kids, look, I don't know if I'll be able to take them to games the way it's going to be, like the way that my dad did, got me and my brother season tickets. I don't know if they're going to do that. Look, as it stands, we're heading closer to a future where I think the majority of our core support can't afford to go to games. Hospitality tickets are the club's main priority, and losing that connection to City. And let's be honest, it's everything that we said over the last 30 years that we've hated United for. It's coming to us, and I think it's coming in £3 a match increments.
Yeah. Just finally then, Nick, if you could have the opportunity to speak to Ferran Soriano, the chief exec, what would you say?
First of all, I'm just one supporter, but what I've spoken to and heard from different fan groups and individuals who feel exactly the same, from the 1894 group, City Matters, podcasts like this one and others, a lot of writers. But first, I think there's a really strong sense of disappointment and a bit of anger across the board, not least when you add in these issues about the Champions League and, new cup scheme changes and the criteria. Look, what price do you put on loyalty, and how far will you go with it? Because it is not. I don't know where the end goal is. I don't know where the end goal is. What we know City as a club, as a community club, what I've grown up with, what you've grown up with. If we continue to go down this route, you're going to change it forever. You can't come back from that.